Hello, everybody! Welcome back to the Salt Lake City Snowhawks expansion franchise. We're still rocking here on Madden 25, and welcome back to Snowhawks football as we're finally getting back onto the gridiron after an eventful offseason. We signed Christian McCaffrey, Tank Bigsby to bolster our running game, trade for Kolton Miller to serve as an upgrade at left tackle, shifted Ikem Conway over to right tackle, signed Ryan Kelly as a stopgap there at center, and an eventful NFL draft where we traded all the way down from 3 to 23 and recouped a first-round pick plus an additional few picks for next season. But we're now here onto the Year 4 campaign. Our Snowhawks very disappointing last season at 4-13 as we look to right the ship here as we're here at the opening kickoff as we are now underway officially here in Year 4. As we kick off the preseason, we're not going to see any starters such as, franchise quarterback Lucas McDonald or running back Christian McCaffrey. Not going to see Marvin Harrison Jr. at wide receiver either. But we will see Joe Burrow, one of the top quarterbacks in the game. The Bengals come off a playoff season as he's at 99 overall. I think signed for another few years as they have him, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins all locked up long term, as their offense looks to be in good hands in the future. They do lose Chase Brown to free agency as he stays in the division, signing with Cleveland, as Joe Burrow right in the hands there, and that's dropped Matthew Torrance there in coverage. Superstar development safety drafted him out of Auburn, as Joe Burrow back there now in an empty set, as there goes Jamar Chase, motions into the backfield, now out wide, as Burrow sitting in the pocket over the middle, and that one incomplete as well. So 2 straight incompletions to start the preseason for Burrow. And that'll make it 3rd and 10. And we are just going to use 6-minute quarters here in the preseason. We're not going to watch every snap. We'll watch probably the first series for each offense. And then simulate a little bit more as Van Ginkel coming off the edge there. And he does get the quarterback hit there on Burrow, who's holding his non-throwing arm, it looked like, or shoulder maybe. It looks like the non-throwing shoulder, and you certainly don't want to see that on the first series of the preseason. So a 3 and out for Cincinnati, as that will give Salt Lake City possession. And we're going to see some of our draft picks, such as wide receiver Carlos Alvarez, first round out of Florida State. Took him at 23 after the trade down. And Jake Browning, the former backup here to Joe Burrow. Now a revenge game here in the preseason for him, as he will serve as our backup quarterback most likely. We only have 3 quarterbacks even on our preseason roster, so they're all probably going to make our 53-man. We have Chris Woodard, a 5th or 6th round pick from last year, as he's stuck as our quarterback 3. So Tank Bigsby is out there in the backfield. He'll get the first carry here, and he'll take that for a strong 7. Signed Bigsby to a 3-year contract, as Jake Browning going to lead this offense here for the first series or 2. As he takes the snap, 4-man rush for the Bengals. Quick throw there to Bigsby as an instant collision. And again, an injury there for Cincinnati. That's Armstead, I think their first-round pick from a couple years ago, as he slams the helmet in frustration. Very productive last year as Cincinnati invested heavily on defense. All 7 of their picks this past draft go to defense, as Tank Bigsby, another touch here, as that goes for 1. Now 2nd and 9. Now the Snowhawks at the 49-yard line trying to enter enemy territory. As again they give for Bigsby as he finds a lane. Good redirection still going, as that's a tough 13 and very good vision on display. Another injury there to Trey Hendrickson. What is going on with all these injuries? Maybe got to turn the slider down, but we have just reconvened. Obviously it's been about a year since I've touched this franchise. And I mean, the sliders we had in place before seem to get the job done. As another give here, as that's going to go for 5. Now a 2nd and 5 for Salt Lake City, as they'll give it back to their ground game here. Turning the corner there, another good run, as that's going to go for 14. And our running game struggled mightily last season, to say the least. And I think that's undrafted free agent Will Nichols out of Miami, receiving back. 2 promising touches to start his career, as he vies for a roster spot. Now first down inside the red zone, as we do get a receiver up there on the line. Empty set, Browning going to just throw that one away. Now 2nd and 10. Browning gives on the ground there. Another productive running game there. 9 yards. And I think that's Golston, an undrafted free agent we added last year, stuck on the practice squad. And like the aforementioned Will Nichols, trying to stick on this roster, both in that receiving back archetype. Now 3rd and 1, short yardage here. And we do get the completion, and that's going to go down to the 2-yard line. And that's going to be Darnell Washington, the 6'7" mammoth tight end. Bring him over from Pittsburgh, as we hope he can fill in as a nice tight end too, behind Mark Andrews there in the short yardage situation, using that big body. And you would hope he could finish in that situation there. Just 2 yards to go, just truck ahead, but not the case. Now 1st and goal, we come out in the I formation. 3 tight ends out there in the heavy set, as we will give to Bigsby, see if he can finish off this drive as he does. So the defense forces a 3 and out, and the offense goes right down the field, heavily involved there on the ground. And that's what we like to see. We really need our running game to establish itself this season to get our passing game going if we want Lucas McDonald and the young offense we have to take strides. And Tank Bigsby flexing the guns there, as he's going to have a huge role on offense this season alongside Christian McCaffrey there in our backfield. And let's just top it off with the extra point here to make it 7-0, as that is up and it's good, as our Snowhawks lead early. We have now simmed ahead a little bit in the action. We want to see our backups now, as they'll finish out the game, or not even our backups, but like our 3rd, 4th string type guys, the guys who are likely going to be on the practice squad, or the guys that are vying for those depth roles on our team, as Will Nichols not really able to get it done that time, as he takes a 4-yard loss. And that's Chris Woodard at quarterback, the 2nd-year man. And also we see Carlos Alvarez there at the bottom of the screen, 1st-round pick out of Florida State, as Woodard trying to maneuver around the pocket a little bit there, and he'll just get rid of that one. So now 3rd and eternity for our Snowhawks. Also worth mentioning, Seth Rosenthal at center, 2nd-round pick out of UNC. Going to have him develop under Ryan Kelly, as Woodard on the move finds an open man, and that's going to go for a 1st down, 22 yards. And that's again going to be Darnell Washington, as he's really making an impact early on, finding his groove and bailing us out on these 3rd downs. That one a lot longer than the one earlier. But if you just find that big body out there, and he'll make a play. But I do stand corrected. That's actually Chauncey Washington. So we have 2 tight ends by the name of Washington, both out of Georgia. That one was Chauncey Washington, and that's right back to him. His 2nd catch, that one for 8. Chauncey Washington, I believe, was a 7th-round pick last season, was a projected UDFA, but we liked what we saw attribute-wise and testing, as we'll go back to the running game here as we find a lane there and we get the 1st down. Isaiah Spiller that time just added here in training camp, as we needed a little bit more running back depth. We'll see if he can shine more than these undrafted guys like Nichols there, who another loss. I think he had a -4 earlier, now -3. After 2 good rushes earlier. And now less than 3 minutes left in this 2nd quarter, heading towards the 2-minute warning as we go back to the ground there. That time for Carlos Alvarez, our 1st-round rookie receiver. And if we can't find him through the air, might as well try and get him a touch on the ground. The 6'3", 233 wide receiver, former Seminole, as we hope he can establish himself as the complement to Marvin Harrison Jr. that we've been looking for on this offense. Now Woodard, plenty of time in the pocket, and he had a man there over the middle of the field, but that does fall incomplete. So from the 42, I don't think we're going to kick a field goal, as we do just go for the punt. Matt Ariza, the only punter on the roster. We'll see if he can give us a coffin corner here, as that one goes out at the 12. I mean, definitely could be worse, could be better, but we'll take that result, and we'll see if our defense can hold here down the stretch of this 1st half. And now some reserves out there for our Snowhawks defense, most notably number 55 linebacker Tashawn Gross, as we do get some pressure there. Quarterback able to get it off, dumps it off there for 7. Time winding that down here. Cincinnati going to have to go a far ways if they want to get some points. Ended up with a field goal on their last drive that was simulated, as another completion there. That one goes for a 1st down. Eric All on that reception, the former Michigan product, as the Bengals moving the ball quite well here to start. Clemens with some time, and he's going to be sacked, as that's Dak Kitchens, the 3rd-year man now, I think, or 2nd-year man out of Oklahoma, former 3rd-round pick. And despite not being the highest overall, I think now at this point like a 75, He's just always seemed to make an impact, whether on special teams, whether he's making interceptions, or in this case, blitzing and coming away with a critical late half sack, as that forces the Bengals to use their first timeout. So now just 69 seconds left, 2nd and 18 from the 18. Clemens on the drop back, fires near sideline as that goes incomplete. And now 3rd and a long ways. Heavy set out there under center, and they go on the handoff, as that is going to be short by a good way, and that's going to be Dane Gilmore, our rookie first-round pick out of Tennessee. We drafted that aforementioned Alvarez at 23, and then Dane Gilmore a few spots down the line at 28. Both ended up to be top 8 in true value, as we're going to take over at the 34 with 56 seconds left. Decent field position, plenty of time with a couple timeouts. And we'll see if Chris Woodard here can lead a late rally along with Alvarez. We also have rookie wide receiver Drew Collins, 3rd-round pick out of A&M, a slot receiver. Woodard going to dump that off, and that's going to go for 6. That was seasoned veteran Tylan Wallace on the snag, and he really has his work cut out for him after all the additions we made to the wide receiver position over the offseason, as Chris Woodard off the play fake going to be brought down for the sack, and that's going to be Engram. And Woodard a little slow to get up, trying to recollect himself, as we will call another timeout that leaves 30 seconds now in the half. 1 timeout remaining for Salt Lake City. We'll see how we decide to play it here on 3rd and 11, as Woodard sitting in the pocket fires, has a man that's going to be caught, and again I think that's Chauncey Washington, his 3rd grab here in this condensed first half. As I mentioned, usually we do 11-minute quarters, but being the case it's the preseason, we're going to go with just 6-minute quarters here, as Woodard has something going, as underneath there again for Chauncey Washington, the tight end, just making a name for himself here. Going to be hard to cut him, as well as no timeouts remaining, and I don't know if we're going to get a playoff spike it or something. I don't think we're going to spike it, as this is going to be the final play of the half. Poor clock management as that one gets away. I think the intended target was Drew Collins, the aforementioned rookie out of Texas A&M. So after the first half of play here in the preseason, I like what I've seen. Our defense stood strong there on that first series, closed out the half well as well with that sack from Dak Kitchens. Our offense moved the ball well out of the gate, especially there by Tank Bigsby, who ended it with an exclamation point. You see there, Woodard made some good decisions there on the run, and Chauncey Washington, 4 catches for 55 yards, as he's been the highlight, and we do get the ball to start. Who's kicking there? Number 55, is that a linebacker? They're kicking that one off for Cincinnati. Haven't seen that one before. And now on the return, as we're going to bring that up to the 32, I believe, 31-yard line. And again, Chris Woodard out there to lead the offense. Let's see if we can get the passing game going a little bit more here in this second half, get those rookies involved. And also we had another one, Eddie Matthews, a 5th-round pick out of Oklahoma State. If you've been following, you've seen me gush about him. 6'6", 209 with 4.3 speed, and also I think it was like 92, 93 change of direction. So not only is he tall at that 6'6" size, he's also very fast and nimble, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he can do. As another handoff there, now 3rd and 4. And we got Carlos Alvarez, number 8, Drew Collins, number 12, and I think Eddie Matthews was number 19. Hopefully we'll see him out there, as we're there near sideline, and that's right on cue. Eddie Matthews, the rookie out of Oklahoma State, 6'6", 209, and we have very high hopes for him. Came in at 70 overall, despite being pretty much a complete project. His catching and route running very low, but you love the skill set to work off of. And rocking that visor makes him all that more intimidating, as again Eddie Matthews over the middle of the field, that time going for 15, so back-to-back catches for Matthews, and that's exactly what we were hoping to see. And you can see there, just side by side with the other players, just towers over everybody. And I think this guy, down the line, maybe even this season at some point, can flash his prowess. So now at the 43, a fresh set of downs for Salt Lake City, as Woodard on the drop back from the 50 over the middle of the field, and a good angle route there. I think that was Isaiah Spiller, as I said, signed him late in the process, trying to see if we can add some running back depth. And now Woodard out there empty, 2nd and inches here from the 33. Woodard goes far or near sideline there, and again that's going to be Eddie Matthews. So once Woodard starts targeting a man such as Washington before or Matthews now, he just keeps going for him. You see Matthews now at the bottom of the screen, accompanied there by Carlos Alvarez, now in motion to the top of the screen. Woodard again near sideline has Eddie Matthews. After the catch, Eddie Matthews takes it all the way and finishes it off. Eddie Matthews, what an opening drive. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the NFL. Taking a couple pictures there, the paparazzi on his case. And this guy, he probably can't go out in public at his size now, but especially maybe going to be a future star just in the soft spot there. And he has the size to finish. I don't think you can really bring him down in the open field either. And the spirits are very high here for Salt Lake City. A very disappointing 4-13 year last season, but this year new expectations. And I think a big case last year, we lost so many games by one possession. I want to say it was 9 out of our 13 losses came by 6 points or less. And now this season, I think we might have the pieces to finish those close games out, especially when you consider our quarterback Lucas McDonald, another season of maturation with a better supporting cast around him. And it's been a tough go in this franchise, still without a playoff appearance. But we might here in year 4 have struck some gold, especially with a strong offseason behind us. A very, very good draft class. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend going back and watching that draft class episode. It was about an hour and a half, but worth it if you like these rebuilds. So we're going to tune into one more Cincinnati drive here. I think we'll simulate the next Salt Lake City drive as much as I want to watch it. And, maybe see someone like Eddie Matthews contribute again. We just want to save some time here in this preseason episode. We want to save it for the regular season. So a shot there towards the sideline. Did not see who was in coverage, but I guess it was Corey Trice Jr., kind of like Isaiah Spiller, a late addition. Corner, strong safety. We're kind of experimenting him at strong safety. As Clemens, another drop back, has a man streaking up the field, wide open. And that's going to go all the way. 76 yards for Cincinnati as they answer right back. And the Bengals have something going here. That's Jermaine Burton, former high draft pick for the Bengals. I'm trying to see who was in coverage over there. And I couldn't really tell. 27-28. I'm not quite sure who that is. As the Bengals, a big play, a much-needed big play on their offense as they've found a spark. We've now skipped ahead in the action a little bit. 4:27 remaining in the fourth quarter. The Bengals also had a 2-point conversion, so that makes it 14-11. We'll see if we can add some points here down the stretch, get some insurance as a big hit there on the outside. Calling for a flag, nothing doing. That's Will Nichols, the undrafted free agent running back out of Miami. And now here on 2nd and 10 from the 19, we'll come out in the I formation. A drop back for Woodard. Has plenty of time to throw, and that's just out of the reach there. I did not see who the intended target was, but you got to make those throws down the stretch. And wide open target that time. Now 3rd and 10. And let's see if we can get the conversion deep in our own territory. Woodard. Again, time to throw. Going to fire that deep downfield, and that's out of the reach of Carlos Alvarez. Trying to win over the top. We haven't really seen him much in this game, and that is going to force the punt. The Bengals take over at the 26 with 3:50 remaining. Let's see if our defense can hang strong here. Gave up the big play last time out, or 2 drives ago. We did get a stop last time, forced a punt, which was simulated, and that throw off a lineman falls incomplete. Now 2nd down. Going to fire far sideline, and that's caught. That's going to go for 5. 3rd and 5 now, 3:15 left in the game. Still time in the pocket, and that's going to be a sack from Ben Amaro, 5th-round pick from our year 1 draft class. Good speed rusher off the edge, more of a rotational depth guy, as he hasn't really worked into the rotation too much, but still probably slotted for a depth spot on this year 4 team. Good pull move there to separate from the block, showing some good upper body strength, and the finish there looks like Dom Gilmore coming off the opposite edge was getting home as well. That's going to force the 4th down. So a big stop here from our defense. We'll just watch the remaining of the game, see if our offense can either kill the clock or add some more points to make it more of a deficit for Cincinnati. And that's going to be a fair catch. Again, Chris Woodard out there. Heavy reps for the 3rd-string quarterback in this game, as we'll see Lucas McDonald maybe next time out, or probably just save him for the first quarter of week 3. And now 2:34 remaining. Good field position again at the 38. Chauncey Washington motions to the top of the screen. Woodard off the fake, time to throw. Hits a man there underneath, and it's going to be Tip Ryman. He's been on the roster since year 1, usually just the second string tight end, but I think now Darnell Washington is going to have that spot. So we'll see if Tip Ryman can hang on the roster. Chauncey Washington, though, might be beating him out for tight end 3 as he makes another catch, breaks a tackle, and brings that to the opposite 44, now into the enemy territory. And that's going to bring us to the 2-minute warning. Now from the 44, Woodard on the give there. Nothing doing for Isaiah Spiller. The Bengals take their first timeout. 2nd and 12. Another give here, again for Spiller, and that's going to go for a loss. Super conservative calls there, as we do force the 2 timeouts lost by Cincinnati, but also lose 3 yards in the process. Back to Spiller, and that one does regain 5, but Cincinnati does burn their final timeout, so going to probably punt it here from the 42. Again, we'll see if Matt Ariza can pin him back deep. Give us a little coffin corner here, as that looks pretty good. And that's going to be out at the 4. So a pinpoint punt from Matt Ariza. Cincinnati, no timeouts remaining. And they have 106 seconds left. And we'll see what the backup quarterback Clemens can do. Always get nervous simming when the team is deep like this. It usually doesn't amount well, as he does footwork up into the pocket. And I thought he was going to backtrack all the way back into the end zone, but he does not, luckily for Cincinnati. But the clock will keep going. Excuse me. Less than a minute and a half now. 2nd and 12 from his own end zone. That at the feet behind his intended receiver, Dale Gilmore, there in on the play. And now 3rd and 12 from the 1. Let's see if we can work a safety here, as Clemens takes the snap from his own end zone again. Rolling to his right. Going to just throw that one into the sideline, as now he'll try again. One last ditch effort here on 4th and 12 from his own 1-yard line. Our offense is foaming at the mouth at the thought of taking over right there, and that's picked off. Probably better served to just let it fall, but you'll take the stats. And that's Jaquan McMillan, free agent signing from Tampa Bay on last year's team that made it to the NFC Championship game. And he makes a big play here in his debut with the Snowhawks. Probably going to open as our slot man on defense. And we'll take another look at it, just heaving it up, hoping for a prayer there if you're Clemens. And McMillan, a good read on the ball, makes the catch. And the Salt Lake City Snowhawks are going to win the first preseason game of this year 4 season. And that feels good. It feels like it's been forever since we've won a game. And even though it's just the preseason, it's a win nonetheless. So we'll just manually simulate the rest of this game, as we're not even going to go for a touchdown there. We're just going to go for kneel downs. And as I said, we do secure the win here. A very, very good effort all around, especially on offense, highlighted by Eddie Matthews and Chauncey Washington, each of whom I think had 4 or 5 catches at least respectively. And our defense made some big plays. Jaquan McMillan, the interception. We had that sack earlier from Dak Kitchens. Tank Bigsby, a strong presence on that opening drive, which ended with a touchdown. And I got to say, our offensive line, especially in pass protection throughout the course of the game, hung up very, very well. But next time out, I believe we're up against the Kansas City Chiefs as we continue to roll on with this preseason. And we are now here at Snowhawks Stadium to host the Kansas City Chiefs last season. An early playoff exit, although they did win the Super Bowl back in year 2 of this franchise, which was Super Bowl 60. As our Snowhawks looking to go 2-0 in this preseason so far. The Chiefs lost back in week 1 of this preseason. And our Snowhawks still riding high off a nice win. They're our first time out. Our offensive rookies, or I guess Chauncey Washington, not a rookie, but our young offensive playmakers that we're looking to develop, made a very big impact, and I hope they continue to do so through the course of this preseason. We have the Chiefs this week, and to close it out, we will have the reigning Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos, as we're now here at the opening kickoff, and we are now underway here from Salt Lake City, our first time back at Snowhawk Stadium in quite a while, as the Chiefs there on the return, and they will take that to the 27. Patrick Mahomes going to play a few series here today in week 2. We're still not going to see our starting quarterback, Lucas McDonald. We'll save him for the finale. And there you see Mahomes still at 99 overall, as you would probably expect at this stage of his career. And probably not going to show any signs of regression anytime soon. Probably has a lot of good football still ahead of him, as he'll take the Chiefs here and start them at the 27. See how our defense does. Mahomes on the drop back over the middle of the field, has a man open, and that's going to go for 8. Now a 2nd and 2, Mahomes directly under center. As he will go on the drop back, has a man there towards the sideline. And that's going to go for a nice gain out the sideline. That one for, I believe, 23 yards. That's Noah Gray, the backup tight end. Longtime Chief there behind Travis Kelce. And now into Salt Lake City territory. Mahomes sit in the pocket, has a man open, but throws that at the feet. I think that might have been Xavier Worthy, if I'm not mistaken. Worthy and Rashee Rice still on this team, making up a dynamic tandem of wide receivers. We were hoping to maybe get Rashee Rice in free agency, but the Chiefs, as you would expect, locked him up. And again, that's going to be caught by Noah Gray towards the sideline. Now a 3rd and 2 at the 34, and I think in this game, week 2, we're going to try and get out of it a little bit quicker than the last. I think after editing, that last game was about 23 minutes, so going to try and condense this one about a fraction of that, as we do get a nice stop there on 3rd down to force a 4th and 2. That's Trice Jr., signed pretty much in training camp. He and Isaiah Spiller, 2 notable veteran additions to this team, trying to work into a roster spot, as the Chiefs are going to go for it here on 4th and 2 in the preseason. Might as well get some experience in these short yardage situations. Mahomes, man, over the middle, and that will be caught by Gray. Another tackle by Jerry Sexton, the second-year linebacker out of Washington, also the reigning Defensive Rookie of the Year. Mahomes takes the snap on 1st down, going to roll to his left, and he's being chased, and he'll be brought down for the sack. Jerry Sexton and the captain of the back end there, Jalen Thompson, there to track down Mahomes. We saw a couple sacks there in the first preseason game, and we see an early one here. Another defensive back getting in on it. We saw Dak Kitchens, the corner, getting in on the action there. And then we see Sexton and Thompson now working on the combo sack. Now make it 2nd and 20. That puts the Chiefs back quite a ways. Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield. As Mahomes from the 45 will just go near sideline there for Pacheco, as that will go for a short gain. Now 3rd and 17. You would think our defense is in a good spot right here. Mahomes just going to dump that off for Gray. His 3rd catch already, and he's going to be tracked down by Sexton already. His 4th tackle on this opening drive. And he certainly came to play today. We'll simulate that field goal attempt, as that is good by Harrison Butker. And we will just simulate this opening drive for the Snowhawks. Sack there on the opening play was Drake Browning, then a 2-yard rush. As 3rd and 14, a quick hole there. And only 6 yards for Trey Palmer. We didn't really see him much in the opener, as Matt Araiza a punt. 49 yards. Kansas City takes over at the 28. 2 yards for Pacheco, as that brings us into the 2nd quarter. And that's going to be a penalty on Jaquan McMillan. And then a penalty against Chenal. So I think we did get possession. I'm not really sure what happened. And going back and looking at the play log, we actually picked off Patrick Mahomes, and it was Jaquan McMillan, the savvy veteran, had an interception in week 1 of the preseason, and he follows suit here. And now Jake Browning off the play action. That was a risky throw. Intended receiver was Darnell Washington, as that falls aimlessly to the ground. And now here on 2nd and 10 from the 31, we'll see if we can get some points off that turnover. Either tie it up or take the lead. Isaiah Spiller splits out. And now Browning in the pocket, as he will fire to the sideline. That's going to be caught by Spiller, as he shakes a man there, or sheds a man. And that'll bring up 3rd and 5 from the 25. So from this spot, a 42-yard field goal attempt. Hopefully we can convert, as again, Spiller there in motion out of the backfield. Browning now going to fire that one away, as we will have to settle for the game-tying field goal attempt. That Joshua Carty field goal attempt was good. And now again, we'll just quick sim this Kansas City drive. Maybe watch the offense one more time here at the end of the half. See if we can get a 2-minute drill going. Kansas City now a 1st down at the 27 as they're driving down the field again. Patrick Mahomes again hooking up with Carl Bayless down to the 11-yard line. And that's going to be an incomplete pass, 2nd and 10. And they get 8 yards again for Bayless, so a 3rd and 2 at the 3. And that's going to be a 3-yard touchdown pass from Mahomes to Rashee Rice. And now the kickoff, or the ensuing kickoff, will take us to the 2-minute warning. As we actually will just simulate, we had a 7-yard pass there for Spiller, now 3rd and 3 after an incomplete pass. And we get 12 yards for Kadarius Toney, his first catch of the preseason. 6-yard rush into enemy territory, as Jake Browning trying to lead this 2-minute drill. Again, another scramble. We get 6 yards to newly signed Dontayvion Wicks. His first catch there for 6 yards, now 9 yards for Palmer. As we have 1 timeout remaining incomplete, a 3rd and 1 at the 28. And that's going to be a 10-yard penalty against the offense. You don't like to see that. as that brings up 4th and 1 from the 28. We'll see what we do, and we just go for the field goal. So the 45-yard field goal is good by Joshua Carty, and I'm assuming we can just hang on here and bring this into halftime at 10-6 as we will. So we didn't watch too much here in the first half. As I said, I want to try and get through this game, the next game, a little bit quicker. I don't want to spend too much time here in this preseason episode. I know the episodes past, we had the offseason and free agency episode, then we had the draft episode, so those kind of dragged on. Those obviously tend to be a little bit longer of episodes, and then again, doing the full preseason in one go can take up some time, but we're going to try and condense it here. So Noah Gray had a lot of good moments there. Bayless for Kansas City, as Mahomes did have a good first half, and again, we get the position player on the kickoff as we're down 10-6 to start this second half. Let's hopefully put a rally together, get some strong play going, as we do get a good return here to start the second half down to the 34. And again, we'll see Chris Woodard, the 5th-round pick out of Florida State, his second year now. And I never really put it together, but he actually was the quarterback for Carlos Alvarez as they spent a couple years together down there in Tallahassee. And we'll start this half a fake as Woodard does find a man towards the sidelines, Tylan Wallace, and he will take that across the 50. I think I mentioned it in the last game, but Wallace has been so good in a reserve role for us as a veteran, experienced guy from that initial expansion roster. As we get a nice carry there for Golston, that one going for 12. Dorian Golston that time had a good showing in that first preseason game. Now 1st and 10 at the 35 as Wallace there in motion. Woodard backtracking now. Near sideline has a man there that's dropped, and that was the rookie slot receiver, Drew Collins. And now 2nd and 10. A few tight ends out on the field as we do give back to Golston, and really nothing doing that time, just a couple. So that brings up a 3rd and 8 at the 33. Let's see if we settle for another field goal attempt. Game of the field goals for the Snowhawks as Woodard does go play action again. And that one does go astray, trying to force that in, and that forces the 4th down. See if we can convert on the field goal as Joshua Carty misses the 50-yard field goal attempt. You don't like to see that, as he's supposed to be like our stud kicker, one of the few kickers in the league with star development, if I recall correctly. As we'll now turn to the defense here, 3:49 remaining in the 3rd. And we'll see some of these reserves. It's going to be the backup quarterback for Kansas City dumping that off. That's going to go for a big loss. That's Dak Kitchens. As I said, just always seems to come up with a big play. It's almost like second nature to him at this point, as he makes up a very good spot as a reserve corner for us, like a slot guy, outside guy, and can also contribute on special teams as either a gunner or a return man. And now again, Kansas City going to throw it, and that one falls incomplete. Garrison Jones there on the coverage, as that makes a 3rd and 13 for the Chiefs. Going to pass it again here. Plenty of time to throw. As now he starts to face the rush, and that'll be Darius Robinson. Not really sure why he's out there at this point, but we'll take this sack. I think our 4th or 5th sack already in the first 2 games. Darius Robinson, a Pro Bowler, going back to that year 2 season, not last year but the year before. As also Ben Amaro had a sack in the first preseason game. He also won against his man as well. We'll now sim our offensive drive as a poor punt there from Braden Mann. We take over at the 41-yard line, a short field to work with, as we get 11 yards, Woodard to Alvarez, just like they used to do at Florida State. 4-yard run by Golston. Now 2nd and 6, we get another 3 yards on the ground from Golston. 3rd and 3, and we get a 5-yard first down for Tylan Wallace. And now a 5-yard rush from Golston. 2nd and 5, another couple. And now another 3rd and short as we do convert just barely. 4-yard scramble from Woodard. And then nothing doing on the ground as we do start the 4th quarter. This game flying by unlike the last, but definitely wanted to get a bigger view in the last game, as it has been a while. So we get a short completion there for Wallace, 4th and 3. We'll see what we do. And we get 12 yards for Alvarez. We convert on the 4th down, as now 1st and goal at the 6. 5 yards for Golston now at the doorstep, and we do get the touchdown. Chris Woodard, a 1-yard pass there for Golston, as a good drive there led by Woodard, and especially Golston. He's been heavily used here down the stretch. Now just over 5 minutes remaining of action. See if our defense can continue to make some big plays. A few sacks in this game, an interception. And another drop back here for Kansas City. That one's batted at the line, so not a good showing so far from Kansas City's backup quarterback. A 5th-round pick out of San Jose State back in year 1, as he has served as the backup to Mahomes the past couple seasons. Now second down, another drop back here for Kansas City. And again, going to be brought down for the sack. Just poor pocket presence there as Ben Amaro, a huge showing in the first couple games. Kind of bodying up the quarterback there after the sack. Only one third down conversion for Kansas City. And it doesn't look too promising here. 3rd and 19. Again, pressure off the edge. That was Dom Gilmore. And that's going to be another big loss on offense for Kansas City as they dump it off, but that goes for a loss. And now another punt for the Chiefs. Again, a short field to work with for Salt Lake City. And as we take over at the 40, see if we can pour it on, get some insurance here. Just over 4 minutes remaining in the game. We're plenty of time to throw. Again, pass protection. It's only a 3-man rush, but still, you like to see that, and then that's going to fall incomplete. A lot of Chiefs in that zone, just no one getting open as they dropped 8 back into coverage that time. Now second down after the incompletion. Have a man there in motion as we do fake the give. Woodard to the man in motion there. It's going to be Tip Ryman, and that's going to go for 2. Correction, that's actually Mark Andrews. I'm not sure why he's out there. I'm not sure what happened with our depth chart to have some of our starters out there, but for the most part, it seems like we're in good shape as Woodard over the middle has a man, and that's going to go for 16. And that's the rookie receiver out of Texas A&M, Drew Collins, 3rd round pick. Good to see him make a catch, especially with a man draped on him like that. And now into Kansas City territory as Golston does go up onto the line as he leaks out and then up. And Woodard towards the sideline. That's going to be caught, but out of bounds, so incomplete. And now 3:11 remaining. Come original. All mixed up, don't know what to do. For those who get that reference, you probably have good taste in music. Now 2nd and 10. Woodard, plenty of time to throw. Again, over the middle has a man, and that's going to be caught. And again, that's Tylan Wallace, who really seemed to be the odd man out in our receiving core after our free agent additions, drafting a few receivers as well. But he's certainly not making it easy for us to part ways with him. As Chauncey Washington there in motion, and we do give to Golston. He'll turn the corner. Golston breaks it, or at least pushes through a tackle. He gets 9. And that does bring us to the 2-minute warning. So we've seen Golston a lot. We're going to go to our undrafted guy out of Miami. Forget his name at this moment. And Golston going to make a name for himself that time. His 11th carry of the game. That one does find the end zone as he's made a very compelling case to be our 3rd-string running back behind McCaffrey and Bigsby. We do have Isaiah Spiller and Golston here, as you see, competing for that running back 3 spot. And we also have that other undrafted guy out of Miami. His name just escapes me at this moment. But another very good showing by our Salt Lake City Snowhawks in this preseason. I really hope this is an indication of things to come, as we've harped on. It was a very disappointing result last year. But hopefully, like I said, this is an indication of things to come. Hopefully all the moves and decisions we've put into building this football team are starting to pay off. Now, less than 2 minutes remaining. We'll just simulate the rest of this game. A 2nd and 12 for the Chiefs. And that's going to be another sack. That's Draymond Jones, another late signing there in training camp. Someone brought in to fill a role, or at least compete for a depth role. And we tried to sign him going back to free agency, but he just didn't want to accept our offer, but eventually did when he was still unsigned after the draft. So 5-yard rush by Walker, the quarterback, 4th and 11. As Kansas City incomplete, so we'll take over at the 29. Probably going to rush it a couple times. That time -2 from Golston. He gets 3. So a 1-yard gain between those 2 rushes. And now 3rd and 9. We get 6 yards from Golston. 21 seconds remaining. And we do get the field goal. So that's going to be 23-10. And I think that will be enough to win this game. We'll just slow sim these last couple plays and see if maybe we can get a late interception like we did last week. As the Snowhawks 23-10. What a showing in this game. We're just clicking in all phases. Maybe a hold there at left tackle, but we're not going to say anything. But it doesn't matter anyway, as Dom Gilmore, the 2nd-year man out of Oklahoma, going to get home for the sack. And what a performance by our Salt Lake City Snowhawks. 2-0 now in this year 4 preseason. We've already hit half of our win total from last season. Although we were talking about the regular season, not preseason. But either way, as I've been saying, very excited for the things to come. Very good results so far. And we have some tough decisions to make when it comes to cutting players and forming our practice squad, which we will do following this preseason finale upcoming against the defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos. And here we are at the Mile High City, as we saw there, Lucas McDonald and Super Bowl winning quarterback Bo Nix eyeing it up there at the tail of the tape, as we're here in Denver, Colorado, 2-0 Salt Lake City Snowhawks against the 2-0 Denver Broncos, and we're going to just dub this as the Super Bowl of the preseason, and it certainly feels that way after very good performances in our first two games. Feels like we have a new team on the horizon, some new expectations after falling very short of those last season. There we see Bo Nix leading the charge, leading the stampede for these Broncos, as the AFC West has secured the past two Super Bowls in this franchise, the Chiefs a couple years ago, and now the Broncos going to try and defend their crown. And here comes Bo Nix, probably going to play the first quarter or two as he looks to tighten the screws and get into regular season status. Only 85 overall, 88 speed, 83 awareness, but a Super Bowl champion, and no one can ever take that away from him, as we hope our very own Lucas McDonald can someday achieve that status. So at the 27 here for Denver, as they come out with two running backs there with the fullback, and they do give that to the ground game, and that's only going to go for two. And that was free agent signing Drew Sanders in on the stop. Was very interested in free agency at joining this team. One of the few free agents that had interest in joining, as Javonte Williams, another give, that time for 4. So that sets up a 3rd and 4. A lot of guys on the line there for Salt Lake City, as a couple do drop back into coverage, as we do have Xavier Thomas there in pursuit against Bo Nix, as he does scramble, and he will get the first down. Xavier Thomas, pretty good speed there coming off the edge at the defensive end position, but Nix just a little bit faster, and those feet can find the first down sometimes, as that accelerates this drive now to the 41-yard line. And the Broncos, 2 young tight ends on this team who have been drafted over the course of this franchise. That one a dump off for Javonte Williams as he finds the first down. And as I was saying, 2 tight ends drafted over the course of this franchise. One an X factor, I think Nicholas Lake, 84 at the top of the screen, as another dump off there for Williams. That time he swallowed up for -4. Drew Sanders and Corey Trice Jr., 2 newly added Snowhawks, teaming up on that one, as that puts the Broncos at midfield here. 2nd and 14, Nix on the drop back, as he does find a man. That one's going to go for 6. Again, Drew Sanders in on the stop, making a name for himself in this final ditch effort for these fringe guys to make a name for themselves and solidify a roster spot, as now Bo Nix being chased, and he'll be brought down. That's Caleb Patton, our 3rd-year D tackle. He's been productive over the early course of his career, star development out of San Diego State, as he's in on the chase there. We had Darius Robinson, a sack in the last game, and this time our opposite D tackle, Caleb Patton, gets in on it, as our interior looking good. And now the Broncos on to punt. I think we will just play out the entirety of this first quarter and maybe most of the fourth. We'll see how it goes. That one goes out at the 19. And Lucas McDonald, our franchise quarterback, showed some growth in his sophomore campaign despite a 4-13 record by our Snowhawks, but very high expectations at 93 speed, 86 overall, and he's one of the next up-and-coming great quarterbacks in the league. And with the weapons we put around him, Christian McCaffrey, Tank Bigsby, added a couple linemen, including experienced center Ryan Kelly, we think we have the pieces in place to put him on the map as a true franchise quarterback in this league. As our opening carry, that's 3 yards to Spiller, trying to build off a rather poor performance there in week 2, where he was outshined by Dorian Golston. McDonald now. His second read there finds the man. That one goes for 5. Now 3rd and 1. 2 tight ends on the field, both by the name of Washington. Chauncey and Darnell out there. McDonald, time to throw. Second read. And that's going to be batted away. And that will force the 4th and 1 punt from our own 28. A 3 and out from the offense. And now Denver's offense back out there, starting again from their own 27. Nick's going to hit a man there. And a big hit there by rookie Tashawn Gross as he forces the incompletion. The intended receiver could not hang on to that one after the hard contact from the 3rd-round pick out of Arizona State. Now Nick's again. Quick delivery that time. That's going to be dropped by Sutton, bringing up a 3rd and 10. Let's see if our defense can respond with a 3 and out of their own. And again, Nick's going to be chased, turns the corner, has some speed upfield, and he will pick up the first down again with his legs. Was being chased by a few Snowhawks there. And again, Drew Sanders in on the tackle, but too little too late, as again that moves the chains. Denver now out in the I formation. As the seconds tick down here, not sure if they're going to get a snap off as they do. Bo Nix on the drop back, and he has, man, one of those tight ends I was talking about, as he barrels ahead for the first down and then some. So that does conclude the first quarter of play here. We'll just simulate the rest of this drive. -2 there for Williams. Then a 7-yard rush from Nix, again using his legs. And then a 3rd and 5 at the 44. And he stopped just short, 4th and 1 at the 39. We'll see if they just go for it or kick the field goals. They punt it. They go for neither of those. They punt it here. Whatever. We'll take it, as we'll take over at the 5 now. And we'll get another look here at McDonald. Haven't seen him all preseason, so we'll look in at another drive as Spiller in the backfield there, as he will get the give, tackled promptly for no gain. And I think that might have been Alex Singleton there, number 53 with the long hair, former Eagle. As McDonald again gives to Spiller, who nothing doing for him in his most recent touches, going back to last week as well. As we are going to be set to see our undrafted rookie running back out of Miami for the second half. McDonald on 3rd and 9, going to try and escape as he does get away from pressure. Turns the corner upfield, and McDonald stopped just short, and there's a flag on the play. I think the first penalty we've seen all preseason. And I think they're going to say late hit or unnecessary roughness, as it is unnecessary roughness on Benito. So that kind of bails us out as we get a fresh set of downs and new life on this drive. So that'll bring us up to the 28 now, as McDonald will give for Spiller. We might just take him out at this point as he gets 4 yards. Or we'll give him this last series of downs, as now he does have the lead blocker out there at fullback. I think that's Tip Ryman, seeing if he can contribute at that position. And Spiller, another give, trying to work it to the outside, and nothing doing there. That brings up a 3rd and 4 situation. McDonald takes the snap. Time to throw. Going to just try and step up and run, and this time he does get the first down, at least cleanly. No penalty needed, as he takes that for 10. And we do hit the 2-minute warning, and also I think we have suffered that glitch where it doesn't allow us to back out at all. We'll see if that changes after halftime, but for now, we cannot back out. We have to watch everything from here, as the intended target that time was Chauncey Washington, as he can't come down with that through the contact. And now 2nd and 10 from the 43. McDonald again going to throw underneath that time for Darnell Washington as he finds him, and that's going to go for 9. Now 1:50 remaining, 3rd and 1 in Denver territory. There's Will Nichols out there. I'm sorry, Dorian Golston, 26. As we do dump that off for Tylan Wallace. Again, a big play for Tylan Wallace, as he'll take that ahead for 16, making something happen after the catch. And again, just really proving his case on this Snowhawks team. He's stuck around from our expansion draft, one of the few players still on the team from then. And it's going to be hard to part ways with him if we're forced to do so. We'll see what happens here after this game, as McDonald again going to showcase his legs, as he takes that for 13. Now 31 rushing yards on 3 carries. And we're being reminded of what makes McDonald so dynamic. Now less than a minute left in this first half, as we have a man out in motion. Again, that's Spiller to the bottom of the screen. McDonald takes the snap. Has a man there, Darnell Washington. And that's going to go for the first down. I think a clean 10 yards. Still two timeouts remaining. Excuse the stutter here, as McDonald now out there empty. That's going to be Golston in motion. McDonald, clean pocket. Fires to the near sideline there, and that's going to be caught down to the 4. Again, that's Wallace, as Salt Lake City takes their second timeout. 2nd and goal from the 4. McDonald has a man there. That's Darnell Washington, as he hangs on through a big hit from Cole Holcomb. I thought we had a man there. It might have been Kadarius Toney in the end zone, but McDonald just did not see him. Now McDonald might be able to take this one in himself, as he is stopped short. A trio of Broncos there to stop him. Now going to be 4th and goal at the 2, as the seconds run down here. I'm not sure what is going to happen. I know there's some late situations, as we are going to get the field goal unit on. I thought time might run out before we could get our personnel out there. As Cardi up and good with 1 second remaining here in the half. I'm sorry, that's Hayes, our undrafted free agent we brought in as some competition. Probably not going to beat out Cardi, but nice to see him make his first attempt. See if they take a chance and heave it deep, as Knicks will. That's downfield, and that will just go out of bounds, as our Snowhawks 1 half away from completing an undefeated preseason, which we'll certainly take here against the defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos. We might be forced to watch the rest of the half, but maybe I'll just end up editing most of it out depending on what happens. Might just show some highlights here in the second half of play, but good to see Lucas McDonald back out there making some plays with his legs, getting reacclimated here. Tylan Wallace really making his case to stay on this roster as a depth receiver. Really hard to part ways with these guys, who have built a reputation within the building, within the organization, who have been around since the beginning. But a lot of competition on the roster with Trey Palmer, Dontayvion, Wicks brought in, Carlos Alvarez, Eddie Matthews drafted, and hopefully we'll see more of Eddie Matthews here. Also Drew Collins in the mix. And they are going to have McDonald out there. I thought they were going to shuffle the depth chart, but I guess we'll have to do that on our own. As again, Spiller to the bottom of the screen. McDonald from the shotgun takes the snap. And he does find Spiller there as he takes that ahead for 13. It actually doesn't even let me update the depth chart. I really wanted to get some fresh guys out there, some backups, but it's going to have the starters in all game, which I did not expect. As we do find Darnell Washington up the seam that time for 24 yards, as McDonald really taking a liking to his big tight end target out there. As Washington going to form a very nice complement to Mark Andrews right there in the soft spot. As Washington really using that size and speed and strength to his advantage. As McDonald going to finish this game out, I guess. Not what we planned, but I guess we'll give him some more reps. Hopefully he can get an upgrade going into week 1. Now a first down at Denver's 36-yard line. Spiller in motion as McDonald back to pass. They'll dump that off as that goes for 7. Spiller now making an impact in the passing game, but I was really hoping to see more of Will Nichols, but it won't even give us the chance to update our depth chart at this point. As Golston to give, he works to the 27. And now Tip Ryman out there at fullback. 3rd and 1 at the 27. We'll fake it to Spiller. McDonald trying to make something happen, but hung onto the ball far too long, as that forces us maybe out of field goal range. We'll see what we elect to do here. A 52-yard attempt, as that's Nick Benito. Had that penalty earlier, but this time makes up for it. Gets the sack, and I think he was working against Ikem Ekwonu off the edge, as we have transitioned Ekwonu to right tackle from left after signing him as a free agent. And he really struggled in his debut season as a Snowhawk. So this is that rookie Hayes from 52 yards, and that looks like it's good, as it is not. My eyes deceived me there. Maybe, wide left? It was kind of hard to tell at that angle. And yeah, wide left. It was long enough, but just wide left there, as the rookie really needed to nail every opportunity he had in this preseason for even, a semblance of making the roster. But maybe just a practice squad guy. Has a nice tackle there off the edge, but a penalty, and we'll see what the call is. Going to be a hold against the Denver offensive line. Kirk Burton, young tackle for the Broncos, had a very good rookie season. And now Nick's on 1st and 20, rolling out to the right side here, up the sideline, and finally brought down. That's another 7 on the ground for Knicks. And that was Baron Browning on the tackle. He's had an active game so far, as we just about hit the 2-minute mark in this third quarter. Knicks now to the near sideline, as he hits his running back that time for a few. 3rd and 7 from the 45, just a 3-0 game so far. Knicks has a man there that's dropped, which will bring up a 4th down. Our defense, a very good start to this game. Isaiah Simmons over there, kind of forgot about him. No mention of him so far. 1:25 remaining in the third quarter. Let's see if Lucas McDonald can get some more points for us and give some insurance to our defense. And that time he does have a man, and again that's Isaiah Spiller out of the backfield. So we're kind of knocking his ability on handoffs, but getting open in the passing game and making some plays. And of course only 6-minute quarters in this preseason, so the stats aren't going to be super accurate. This time we will try the ground game for Spiller in just 1. And again, I really wish we could alter our depth chart. That's what the preseason's all about. I tempted to just scrap this part of the preseason entirely, but we will just let it play out as we do hit the end of the third quarter. Kind of already committed at this point, despite not, how we wanted things to go. We wanted to see a few more of our guys as they try to make a case for their roster spot, but whatever, you got to adapt and go with it. Roll with the punches, as that's what our Snowhawks have done so far. 1 quarter away from an undefeated preseason, as actually now they go to the backups, so that's some saving grace. I guess they play the starters 3 quarters in this final week of preseason. I wasn't privy to that, as Woodard, his first attempt, and he finds that aforementioned Eddie Matthews, forgot his name for a second, that time for 14, Good to see him. Did not see him at all last week in week 2 of the preseason, but 4 catches in that week 1 game, a touchdown, and now on his first snap of the day, a big gain. Woodard now gives on the ground for that undrafted rookie. I keep forgetting his name, Will something, as we'll see it pop up here shortly. As we got the Seminole and the Miami Hurricane, Will Nichols, there we go, the Miami Hurricane in our backfield, and we will fake it that time to Nichols. Woodard will give it to him, but Nichols was still turned towards the sideline. Did not expect that one to get to him. You gotta be a little bit more heads up than that. And now Woodard again, gonna take the snap from the logo. Goes downfield, has a man wide open, and that's going to go for 33. Chauncey Washington, his 6th catch of this preseason, leading our team. And that one a big one, maybe our longest gain through the air so far. Woodard, nice and cerebral there in the pocket, reading the field, staying calm. And he does find his man Chauncey Washington, who I think has beaten out Tip Ryman for a roster spot. He's very low, I think, at just like 65 overall, but making plays. And I honestly, if I put him on the practice squad, not sure if he'd get snatched up, but I don't want to take that chance. But we'll see how it goes when we get to the cuts here soon. As Will Nichols a give, breaks first contact, and scrounges up 2. Riley Moss there in on that play. And even Woodard kind of making some plays here as well at quarterback, considering making him our QB2 behind McDonald instead of Jake Browning, as that time underneath for Drew Collins. Now 3rd and 7 at the 8. Want the touchdown here. You don't want to give Denver a chance to take the lead on a late 4th quarter drive. Now Woodard going to try and step up, not known as a runner, but that time we'll dive in for the touchdown, laying it all out as Woodard does find the end zone. Big frame there, 6'5", like 230 type guy. Again, not known for his legs, but I think like 75 speed or so. He certainly can get it done. More known, for his 94 arm strength. As we will take that result. You love to see that, especially from a quarterback trying to earn his keep on this team. And again, just one of our younger guys, a guy we drafted, brought into the program, just having a good play there, showcasing just some willingness, some talent, some physicality. And this team riding high. 3:25 remaining of this preseason. See if our defense can close it out as we get a chance to look at some reserves on that side of the ball. The Broncos will return that from their own 3-yard line. As that goes past the 30, good return that time up to the 36. All right, so let me know what you thought if you watched some of this preseason. Who stood out to you? Who's your favorite? Is Eddie Matthews a future star at receiver? As we'll have Evans, the backup here for Denver, his first pass attempt. And that's almost picked off, ricocheted, and almost caught there by Barrett, the running back, their backup running back. That was Isaiah Simmons in coverage. Almost came away with a pick. We'll also see here if Jaquan McMillan can close out the season with another interception. Evans again has a man there. That time it's caught. And that goes for 10, 3rd and inches from the 45 going no huddle here. Evans was hit that time, and that's the rookie Dane Gilmore in to knock that one away. Forces the 4th down. Evans trying to force that one into double coverage. And Gilmore, kind of like the other guys we've seen in this game, Matthews and Washington. He had a big week 1. Didn't really hear about him much last week. 4th and inches now, heavy set for Denver as they go on the pitch. And the Salt Lake City Snowhawks snuffed that one out all the way. Xavier Thomas, I think Dak Kitchens was over there, Isaiah Simmons, as that was just a field day for our defense. Read it the whole time our defensive line shifted. Read that one to perfection as our offense will get the ball back here late after forcing the turnover on downs. Short field to work with now from the 43. Salt Lake City in the I formation. The receivers on the field, rookie Carlos Alvarez and Eddie Matthews. As we go back to Will Collins that time, body slammed, and that's a 2-yard loss. 2nd and 12, 2:10 remaining in the game. Maybe the last play before the 2-minute warning. As it is given to Nichols, and he does get those 2 yards back. Now a 3rd and 10, looks like we might again go to the ground game here. Just keep that clock rolling as we do. And again, Nichols taken down for a loss that time at 3 yards. And that's Payne, drafted rookie at D tackle. And that is going to force the Salt Lake City Snowhawks punt here, as the Broncos do take their first time out. Still some time to work with Matt Ariza from his own 46, as that one will go out at the 8. Another tremendous punt that time from Ariza, pinning the Broncos back inside the 10. We saw back in that week 1 matchup, he had a dime think out at the 4-yard line as Evans. A very, very long field to go. Only 153 to work with. A couple timeouts in a 2-possession game. Let's see who can make some plays here on defense down the stretch of this preseason, as Evans does find a man that time for 7. Going hurry up here. Evans has a man over the middle, and he misses him. Now a 3rd and 3, as Evans with it. Quick decision, has a man that's almost intercepted, and that was Garrison Jones, I believe, as that's in his hands and out, as Evans gets bailed out that time from the pick. And now coming in on 4th and 3, a heavy set here for the Broncos. Couple tight ends, the fullback, as they go to the ground, and that time they will get it. They won't get the turnover. They'll get the first down, and that's moved up to the 22. 1:14 remaining, only one timeout for the Broncos. Battle of the 2-0 teams here. Evans dumps that off underneath, and that will be just short of the first down, 2nd and inches, as we hit the 52nd mark of this game. Evans, another quick decision, that time just out of the reach. He's just missing these targets, making quick decisions, reading the field quickly. A couple close interception calls, but otherwise good decisions, I'd say. Now 3rd and inches. Evans, another quick throw, and again, like I said, that one batted down. Not sure who was in on that one. Now 4th and inches, we'll see if they can convert. Again, they go for the pitch, and that time it does work. We saw that's what stopped them the first time, but this time they are able to convert, as Baron Browning was competing for a roster spot, been out there most of this game, but now seen injured there, and maybe that might impact his ability to make the roster. Maybe it might just put him on the IR to start, depending on the severity. Now Evans on 1st down, being chased, and he escapes, still being chased though, and ultimately will get rid of it, and also runs into one of his coaches. Now 33 seconds from the 33. One timeout still for Denver. Evans, time to throw, will work to his left now. Not going to scramble, going to fire across his body, and hits the logo, but no one home. Now 3rd and 10, 25 seconds. Evans, again almost picked off. We've had so many dropped interceptions, and that was Dak Kitchens. Would have been great to see him come away with one. We know about his big playability, and usually he does come down with those, and it looked like he had some space to make something happen the other way. But 4th and 10 here, another 4th down for Denver, as they've been on life support this drive. Evans downfield, and that's caught, and that's going to go for a touchdown. 67 yards for the Broncos on a last-ditch effort, as they finally find the end zone. They break the shutout here. I think that's Cole Bellinger on the touchdown, a little amped up here, despite might be too little too late, but an onside kick recovery, you never know what can happen. A lapse there in coverage, and I was really hoping we'd keep that shutout going, but as long as we come away with the win, it doesn't matter. What was that, 4 4th downs that Denver converted on that drive? Just insane composure there from Evans, as he led the charge and did a fine job with a long field to work with 13 seconds left to spare. And the hands team there, Kadarius Toney, whiffed on it the first time, picks it up and goes back the other way a little bit, breaks a tackle, get off me, and eventually shoved out at the 35. And with that wraps up this year 4 preseason, as our Salt Lake City Snowhawks go 4-0. Denver going to call a timeout, just drag this on a little bit longer. But 3-0. Our Snowhawks finished at 3-0 with this win over the defending champion Denver Broncos. So much to be pleased about, as we looked good in all phases, especially on offense. On defense, our offensive line was good. I think only 1 sack surrendered all preseason, whereas our defense, I think we had maybe 8 sacks, something like that, over the course, and we had a lot of big stops, some big plays by some guys trying to earn a roster spot. Chauncey Washington, Eddie Matthews, 2 young, potentially great playmakers at wide receiver and tight end, and are just so much to be excited about. Lucas McDonald looked good, albeit in a limited sample size, and we had some starters as well make some big plays on defense. So shortly here, we're going to evaluate the roster, go over some guys, maybe look at some preseason stats, and then we will compile, make the tough decisions, and formulate our 53-man roster for this year 4 season. So we will just scroll through the stats really quick and see how our players turned out. And we see here Chris Woodard, 24 out of 37, 2 touchdown passes, completed 64%. No turnovers from any of our quarterbacks. You like to see that. Lucas McDonald, 11 out of 13. I didn't realize how efficient he was in that 3-quarter game there in that final performance. And Jake Browning, 8 out of 14. Might not make the roster after Woodard had such a good preseason, but we'll see. And then Dorian Golston got a heavy workload in those final 2 games, led our team by more than double of the next guy with 81, a touchdown, and 5.1 yards per clip. And he adds value as a receiving back and return man. McDonald, 32 yards on scrambles. Spiller, just 32 yards on 14 carries for 2.3. I'm not sure if he did enough to make the roster. And there's also a few notable running backs cut who we're going to look at. One, a future Hall of Famer, so very intriguing. Might look to add him to the roster. Tank Bigsby, all those touches I think came in that first game. And looking at receivers, Chauncey Washington, 6 for 100, led the team in yards. Then Tylan Wallace with 7 catches, tied for Spiller for the team lead. Wallace, 71 yards. And Eddie Matthews, 5 for 68 and a touchdown. Really hard pressed, not to find a way to get him on this final 53-man roster. Darnell Washington, 5 for 54. And a couple rookies here, Alvarez and Collins, each 2 catches for 23 and 18 respectively. Trey Palmer, the 95 speed man. And then Kadarius Toney as well was our leading receiver from last season, even over Marvin Harrison Jr. But I don't know if I'm totally convinced at him making the final roster with the crowded wide receiver room we currently have. And then Seth Rosenthal, 2nd-round pick out of North Carolina, really settled in well at center, played most of the snaps on the offensive line at 74, no sacks allowed, and we're hoping he can succeed. Free agent signing, Ryan Kelly, Christian Jones up here, Jamie McLean, probably our swing tackle, 1st-round pick from last year, I think now at like 76 overall. Ty Eubanks, 6'4", 344, just one of those maulers in the run game. 1 sack allowed by Kolton Miller, and also a sack allowed by Ekonwu, so both of our starting tackles allowed a sack here, the only players to do so, although you got to consider they were up against the ones on the Broncos. And then 8 tackles, leading the team, tied for Sexton. And Corey Trice Jr., who made an impact, I'd say, in this preseason. Also, Javon Kinlaw, another training camp signing, led our team with 3 tackles for loss. And we are kind of poor in terms of depth at the defensive tackle position, so he might have earned a spot. Sexton, 2 tackles for loss, along with Kitchens, Amara, who also had 2 tackles, leading our team. Dom Gilmore up here, Caleb Patton. And our team ended with 9 sacks. I'll definitely take that in 3. We'll take 3 per game. And those were condensed games nonetheless, as Amara led our team, probably earning a roster spot with 2. Kitchens, Gilmore, Patton, Robinson, and Draymond Jones each had 1 as well. And then 4 guys down here with a half sack. Don't forget about Joey Bosa, a starter on this defense, and Jaquan McMillan, 2 interceptions, the only player to pick off the opposing quarterback. 2 pass deflections there from Kitchens, and field goals. Cardi was 3 for 4. Todd Hayes, undrafted rookie out of Oregon, was 1 for 2, missing that 50-yard field goal attempt, or around 50. Ariza, just a stud punter for us. And Golston, 70 yards on 3 kick returns as he looks to make the final roster. And now we have 22 players to cut. We'll get down to the nitty-gritty, the fun stuff in this episode, and we'll just go with the gimmies off the bat. Those questions on the test that your teacher just gives you the answers to. And Eric Walden and Devontae Gray here, both additions back in year 1. I think Alden was a 7th-round pick out of LSU. Devontae Gray, just an undrafted guy who stuck around on the practice squad with only 85 speed at strong safety, only 64 overall at 25 years old. Not going to make the cut. And now you see here the lowest player on our team is Chauncey Washington, and we will get a look at his player card just because of how well he performed there in the preseason. And he's 6'7", 236, 7th-round pick from a couple years ago. Obviously a project here, but just based on how he performed, it's so hard to keep him off. Even though he's a low overall, I still think with that age and the skill set, he might draw interest from other teams just trying to stash him as like a tight end 3 or something. So also Kyrie Cherry we can cut, another undrafted free agent back from year 1. And we'll just go ahead and throw a few guys on the practice squad. We'll start with Taylor Tyson here, an undrafted guy from last year's class, I believe. We also have Keegan Teague, a right tackle, 6'8", 329. I think he was an undrafted guy within the past couple years. Dom Gilmore was actually someone we drafted, I think, entering his 2nd season out of UTEP. We'll hang him there for now. And Will Nichols was just so underwhelming in the preseason. Even though he's a higher overall, we'll actually just go to running back entirely. Even though Nichols is a higher overall than Golston, just based on what Golston showed us, I think he earned the spot. And he does have 1 year on the practice squad, so a little bit more experienced in our system. So I think Nichols, even though he might get snatched up, not quite sure, we'll put him on the practice squad, have him try again next year. And then so that leaves us with 4 running backs: McCaffrey, Bigsby, Spiller, and Golston. But as I said, there are some notable running backs in free agency that didn't survive their team's roster cuts. So I think Spiller he was decent at times, but just didn't really do enough to earn a spot. So we'll go ahead and cut him. No guaranteed money there as a late addition to this team. So right now only 3 running backs. We do have Brandon Davison. He spent last year with the Saints as an undrafted guy, but look at the stats here. 6 foot 255 out of Auburn, blocking fullback, 89 lead block, which is absolutely absurd, with 77 impact, 80 strength. Not an overwhelming athlete, but going to be a great lead blocker there. Our running game really struggled last season, as noted, and I think getting a guy like him to lead the way for someone like McCaffrey or Bigsby will do wonders for our offense. So, I mean, when you consider the fullback, that does give us an extra running back, even though we only have 3 at this time. Probably still we'll add 1 more there in free agency, as we said. Now we get down to the tough position here, wide receiver, as we have 8 guys here. And if I could, I would keep every single one of them. I thought Kadarius Toney was our clear slot man. I mean, maybe even Trey Palmer can serve in that spot here or there. But if we do cut Toney, as I suggested, that would put Wicks or Alvarez into a slot role. And I don't really think either are prototypical slot guys. I mean, for that rating, Wicks does get a 79. And for slot, I really just look at short route, release, and catching, as Wicks 86 for short route, 82 release, 85 catching, 82 catch in traffic. So not the worst guy to put in the slot. I think he's more of a perimeter boundary receiver, but maybe Alvarez might be a little bit better in that spot. 6'3", 233, not your traditional slot receiver by any means. Short route is 80, 78 release, and the catching traffic both there, low 80s. So I don't know, we'll have to see. Plus with Alvarez at this point, we can kind of mold him to our liking, as he is set for an upgrade here shortly. But I think I have thought on it, and I do believe cutting Kadarius Toney might be the best course of action for this team. Was our expansion pick from the Chiefs going back to year 1. And as mentioned, he did lead the team in receiving last year with 824. Very steady production over his course with the Snowhawks as a number 2, number 3 behind Marvin Harrison Jr. in the passing game, but just better options on the table. And as it says for his player tag, he is a bridge player. And I think at this point we have crossed that bridge. So we actually will save a little bit of cap as well. And now that'll trim us down to 7 receivers. And I don't really know who I would cut at this point. We might just keep 7. I mean, Tylan Wallace, that's a big dilemma for us as well. A high character guy who we do like having in the building. But what else does he bring this football team that we don't already have in our other receivers? Even though he played for his life out there in the preseason, would hate to part ways with him. We'll skip that for now. Now, tight end, another difficult position. Of course, Mark Andrews is our starter despite a very, very underwhelming debut season with our Salt Lake City Snowhawks after signing a 4-year contract. Darnell Washington set to be the backup, had some bright spots there in the preseason. And then we have Cortez Bibbs, Chauncey Washington down here, and Tip Ryman, who no longer is eligible for the practice squad. I actually do like Ryman, especially as a tight end 3. I think Cortez Bibbs, we drafted him, I think maybe year 2, 85 speed, really nothing of note traits-wise, and he might just be a practice squad guy, 5th-round pick out of Penn State, and we will just throw him on the practice squad. If one of these tight ends was going to make the roster between Bibbs and Washington, I definitely would pick Washington, so I don't feel bad there just throwing Bibbs on the practice squad. As we have 13 players now left to either cut or put on the practice squad. Miller will be our starting left tackle, at least for a season. Christian Jones had a good preseason as we go through the rest of the offensive line. So Ty Eubanks, 89 strength, and I mentioned him at 6'4", 344. We really like that size on the offensive line. A good change of pace from everybody else that we have. So Rosenthal will serve as our backup center behind Kelly. And then Cade Mays, a free agent signing back in year 1. I think started like a year or 2. He's going to get cut here, as that now puts us at, I think, 10 offensive linemen. No, more than that. We have 3 there at right guard, 2 here at right tackle. So at right guard, Will McMahon, just 69 overall, an undrafted guy from year 1. We will cut him as well. So that now leaves us with 10 offensive linemen. I wouldn't really want to keep any more than 9. We're going to keep both those right tackles. Isaiah Adams has been pretty good since starting this franchise. He's been kind of a guard center for us, going both ways there, left guard. So Ty Eubanks probably the odd man out. I wish we had practice squad eligibility left for him, but Christian Jones there at tackle a little bit better. And then also I think I like Isaiah Adams better at right guard as well. So Ty Eubanks, a 7th-round pick back in year 1 out of Florida. Not going to crack it this year, which leaves 10 more spots now we have to deal with. At left end, Dom Gilmore, Draymond Jones, Kwity Paye. I wouldn't mind keeping all 3 of them. At right end, we also have 3 guys, especially Amaro, definitely earned a spot this season. So if we're going to cut one of these ends, we might just move Gilmore to the practice squad. I think Draymond Jones did enough to be a depth rotational guy for us this season. Even at D tackle, maybe he can get some snaps. As we now see Caleb Patton and Darius Robinson, Bobby Brown III, who we have had on the trade block, but no one really biting on him. Javon Kinlaw, like I said, earned his keep on this team, so that would give us 4 defensive tackles. We're going to go ahead and cut Moro Ojimo there, former D tackle out of Texas, which brings us to linebackers. We have Jordan Walker here, who we might throw on the practice squad, already 26 years old, a little bit older than the guys you usually see on the practice squad in Madden. Baron Browning, as I mentioned in that last game, very active, but we'll see if he takes precedence over any of these other guys. So Jack Gibbons, our captain at middle linebacker, let's take a look at his player card. We signed him back in that year 1 offseason. He's been a starter on this defense the past couple years. 122 tackles, 10 for a loss, and 2 interceptions going back to year 2. The first year we had him also 4 deflections, 1 forced fumble, and then last year just didn't really have the same oomph factor that he had the year prior, but still served as a high character guy on this team. But after drafting Tashawn Gross, we signed Drew Sanders, who's a little bit better, at least ratings wise, younger as well by 3 years. We have Jerry Sexton up here, plus Quay Walker at right outside linebacker, along with Isaiah Simmons. And I forgot to mention, we did actually have a trade offer for Jack Gibbons, or actually a couple trade offers for Jack Gibbons. So we're going to entertain those right now, one being from the New York Jets, the other from the Denver Broncos, who we just played. They're offering Shaden Payne, who I'm pretty sure is a rookie D tackle, or at least entering maybe his second year. But I do like this package from the Jets. I want to get some picks if we can for Gibbons, and they will give us a 6th round pick this year and a 7th next year, 2029, along with Sean James, who is entering his 2nd season out of Hawaii. And I figured I would just put the trade side by side rather than just accepting it in that menu. We'll take a look at Sean James. And I remember him being an intriguing prospect, 69 overall elusive back with 92 speed, 93 acceleration, 89 agility. That juke move, spin move there in the high 70s, decent vision. So a young guy, just 22 years old. I'm not sure if he cracks our final roster, but certainly an intriguing addition to our backfield at 5'8", 197. But I think more notable here, we do get those 2 picks. We get a 6th rounder this year and a 7th rounder next year, and Jack Gibbons. So when that kind of fell out of favor with everyone else added around him, kind of like Kadarius Toney in the wide receiver position. Gibbons and Toney were both big contributors as we went on through this franchise the past couple years, or at one point at least. But, we're just continuing to build, evolve, and get better. And with that, I think we will send Gibbons here to the New York Jets, as he has a nice change of scenery there, going to bring some leadership to a rather young New York Jets football team. And with that, we are now 1 player closer to concluding the cuts here and forming this 53-man roster. So with that, we'll go back to linebackers, and that now leaves us with 10 guys in our linebacking core. So I think we will start out by just putting Jordan Walker here on the practice squad, linebacker out of Southern Mississippi. And at middle linebacker, we still have 4 guys here, and Seth Phillips was a 7th round pick, 86 speed, but overall pretty raw in most areas, despite being a 5th-year senior coming out of Ohio State. You like that hit power in pursuit at 83, but I don't really think he has enough quite yet, and didn't really do enough in the preseason to earn a roster spot, as we will go ahead and throw him on the practice squad. And I really wish he didn't have to go back every time to the position when he backed out of a player card. It's like just put us right back where we were. So with that, we now have 3 middle linebackers, 2 outside linebackers at the left side. And then between Isaiah Simmons and Quan Beverly, we'll just go ahead and throw Beverly on the practice squad. We like that 89 speed, but still, Isaiah Simmons, I love the skill set, the athleticism. Probably his last year on the team, I would think. Once these players hit age 30, they tend to regress a little bit, as that would take him down to like a 70, 69 overall player. And now just 6 players left to cut or throw on the practice squad here at corner, which I think is overwhelmingly our biggest need going into this year's offseason. I mean, obviously we have to get through year 4 first, but just looking at it, just no studs at the spot, just 281 overalls, and only one of them a star development, as we drafted Nathan Scruggs a couple years ago in the 2nd round out of Ole Miss. So Jaquan McMillan, of course, just solidified his spot as our slot man. Comes over from Tampa Bay, who made last year's Super Bowl, but fell to Denver. Dak Kitchens, of course, he's our guy. He's going to stay on the roster, which now brings up a decision between Elijah Jones and Garrison Jones. Jones a few years younger, but I think there's just too big of a talent gap right there between Elijah, who's a little more solidified. He's been with this team day one, could add some good depth, even though I think Kitchens would surpass him on the depth chart. We'll see if maybe we can get an upgrade in free agency, but otherwise Garrison Jones, I think a late round pick from that year one draft. He's not going to make the cut this year. Now, just 5 corners. We'll go over to safety, where I know we did cut a few guys earlier, some undrafted guys who had just stuck around on the practice squad. And I think we're pretty set at safety. We got 3 there at free safety. Jalen Thompson on our second first-round pick here in Dale Gilmore, 77 zone safety, coming up with a upgrade here soon, as he and the veteran Jalen Thompson going to split some time there at free safety. Of course, we want to get our defensive captain in, or at least the captain of our back end, Thompson, as he's still kicking there at 80 overall. But definitely by next season, I think it's probably Gilmore's spot. And Dadrion Taylor Demerson going to be our third safety at free safety. Might even be our backup here to Matthew Torrance at strong safety, but also Corey Trice Jr. has some experience at corner, and I like what he did at strong safety there in limited time in the preseason. So 5 spots left, and Todd Hayes, a star development kicker, which you rarely see, but still not enough to beat out Cardi. We're going to throw Hayes on the practice squad, but I think he, of all the players we throw on there, has the biggest chance of getting snatched up by another team, as kickers are slim, and he has that star development. So now just 4 spots left to work with, and this is where the decisions get really tough. Although I did forget, I wanted to go over to quarterback, and just based on what we saw in the preseason, I think I am going to go with Chris Woodard as our backup quarterback over Jake Browning. Browning spent 1 year as the backup here to Lucas McDonald, or maybe 2 years, but just 67 overall. Woodard coming up right behind him, and you see there much more arm strength, better deep accuracy. I mean, Browning's a little bit more accurate, but he can't really throw the ball, past like 10 yards, and we saw he was limited there in that preseason. So we'll go ahead and cut him. We'll preserve Chris Woodard and maybe get him some reps at times. So at least just now 3 players. We'll go back to running back here, as you do now have 4, as Sean James part of the backfield now. But even though he's higher rated than Golston, I still think Golston cracks the roster over him. We have that fullback, you can't forget him, and then also all these receivers as well. And we're just not going to be able to keep 7 guys, unfortunately, which I think leaves Tylan Wallace as our odd man out. As I said, just a valued member of our Snowhawks organization. Last year, 11 catches, 203, and 3 scores. You love that efficiency, as he saw a little bit more playing time down the stretch. Nothing really of note before that as a depth guy on this team, but there's some players, you just can't keep, despite how much you either like them or how much they contribute inside the confines of the building, being a good teammate. But unfortunately, we drafted 3 guys. Eddie Matthews really made his case, and I'm not risking him getting snatched from our practice squad from another team. Drew Collins, we got to keep Trey Palmer, just that 95 speed with kick return ability. A really good depth man here behind Harrison, Wicks, and Alvarez. Probably will get him some reps. Drew Collins, 3rd round receiver, going to get him some slot reps as well. So Tylan Wallace, maybe you come back one day down the line, but for now, you're going to have to find a new team to play for, as that might have been the toughest cut, even though it was kind of clear cut just based on his age compared to the other guys. I think we did what we had to do. And now here at tight end, I think Chauncey Washington might just have to end up on the practice squad. Our offensive line, I guess we are going to roll 9 deep there. We'll take another pass through the defense, and maybe Dom Gilmore ends up on the practice squad. And I think he might have to be the odd man out, because we also have a guys on the linebacking core who can contribute off the edge. Van Ginkel is probably going to get some reps at left end in pass rushing situations. Baron Browning can also contribute in that phase of the game. So I don't think we need to keep so many ends, which will land Gilmore on the practice squad. And that leaves 1 more spot. I forgot also we had Bobby Brown the 3rd here at D tackle. I'm not sure what we want to do with him. So this final spot really comes down to maybe Brown or one of those running backs. And we're set in every other phase. But also, we also want to add at least a running back from free agency, as I mentioned. So we'll just go to the free agency market real quick, as at this point now just 1 cut left to make, but it might be 2 depending on what happens here. So free agents, and you see here someone towards the top, we have Derrick Henry at 33 years old now, just 80 overall. So of course, a shell of his former self, but still 6'3", 247. And I think playing in that power back role, even though we now have Tank Bigsby, we have Christian McCaffrey, I think a three-headed backfield wouldn't be a bad approach. I mean, Henry, maybe, we're not going to give him too many carries, maybe like 5-10 carries a game, something in that ballpark, just to get his toughness and imposing physical nature out there on the offense in the ground game. 85 strength. Just love to see that. Signed a 2-year contract with the Giants, but only lasted one of those 2 years, as now just a $2.65 million deal will get it done. So Derrick Henry, adding him to the backfield, I'm certainly pondering that, but we will go back over to running backs and see if anyone else is on the market. We have Marshawn Lloyd, spent the last 3 seasons with Packers, pretty high draft pick if I recall correctly, like a second, third round guy. There's Kolton Miller, kind of a similar player there to Marshawn Lloyd, Nick Chubb, Arthur Hubbard, and then we see some guys even on the practice squad here. We'll go on practice squad, 75 overall Arthur Hubbard, as we could steal him from the Eagles at 94 speed, 94 acceleration, 89 agility, 85 juke move. That is quite the skill set, I feel like. I wish we could see from this menu where he was drafted, but it doesn't show us. But even then, I still think I prefer Henry. Just, they love the storyline, but I think his skill set is something we can use on this team. We don't have a true power back, and who better to fill that role, for one season than maybe the best power back of all time. A backfield of Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey. Imagine that like 5-10 years ago. Not as intimidating now, I think, in the 2027 season, but still, I think Henry could serve a purpose on this team, as we are going to pull the trigger and bring in Derrick Henry, another high-profile running back, as that now leaves 2 positions we have to cut now. But we'll just gloss over these top 100 free agents, see who didn't make the cut for their teams. Teron Johnson, I believe longtime corner there for Buffalo, now the top guy on the market at 82 overall, just 31 years old. I think he might be able to be a starter for a team. Khalil Mack, pass rusher. Cooper Kupp, no longer a member of the Seattle Seahawks. Blake Cashman, decent linebacker at 79 overall. Then we have a couple running backs here in Lloyd and Miller, who we just talked about. Deontay Johnson and Jermaine Pratt, each 31 years old. Kadarius Toney, we'll see if he ends up somewhere, changes scenery. Arthur Hubbard, who we talked about, 94 speed running back, who we could pluck from the Eagles practice squad, but we're just going to stick with that signing of Derrick Henry. Overall, I like the guys we've drafted. I like who we've brought into our organization. I feel like we've done a good job building the depth of this team. So we do have to make 2 cuts now, and I think we are going to go to the running back position. We're going to keep Dorian Golston, but I think Sean James is someone we will throw on the practice squad. Just can't really afford to keep him, even though he is higher rated than Golston. We saw some of those running backs who were stashed on the practice squad, such as Hubbard at 75 overall. So I was kind of worried that maybe Sean James getting snatched up by a different team, but there's just such better talent ahead of him there on the practice squad that I don't think he would be option A for teams trying to strengthen their backfield through free agency or through some other team's practice squad. So we are going to throw Sean James on the practice squad. I'm not even sure how many spots we have left on our practice squad, but I do know we have one more cut left to make, and we are just going to go ahead and place Chauncey Washington there. I believe we are just going to go ahead and stick with those 4 D tackles. Although, I don't know, now that I'm thinking about it more, I think we could even go ahead and cut Christian Jones. We already have a pretty good swing tackle in Jamie McLean, and Jones already 27 years old. I don't really know what he really offers to this team. So even though Washington's 64 overall, I'm not even going to take the chance of him getting snatched up by another team. That would just make me sick. And hopefully, like me, hopefully you've kind of grown a keen liking to Chauncey Washington, Eddie Matthews, those guys who just really shined in the preseason. So the final move we're going to make, I just decided Christian Jones, former draft pick of the Arizona Cardinals, who we inherited in that rookie class from the Cardinals as we transitioned into a expansion team. So Christian Jones is not going to make it any further. And with that, our 53-man roster is now assembled, as we are going to open the Year 4 season against the New Orleans Saints. They had the number 2 overall pick, and they took Tyson Wakefield out of Notre Dame. Drew a lot of comparisons to Drew Brees there in his college career, as we will just take a little look at their roster. At quarterback, they have Desmond Ridder, Daniel Jones, Tyson Wakefield, and Spencer Rattler. I'm not even sure who the week 1 starter is going to be. As I said, Tyson Wakefield just drafted 2nd overall, but only comes in as a 72 overall. Normal development, so it looks like the Saints have a bust on their hands. I'm hoping to see him there in week 1. I think our imposing defense would give him a good welcoming to the NFL type moment. Chris Olave, Eric McCoy, Ryan Ramczyk, Brian Breezy, the corner tandem of Kool-Aid McKinstry and Paulson Adebo, Talias Fiaga, DeAndre Porter, who was a draft pick in this franchise. They also have Rashad White and Nakobe Dean, 2 newly added players. But this is where I'm going to leave you, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking with this Snowhawks franchise. It was a fun preseason episode. Our team, our players certainly came to play. High expectations entering year 4, and I think we're going to get off on the right note there against the New Orleans Saints. Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Tank Bigsby, rookie receivers Carlos Alvarez, Eddie Matthews, Drew Collins. Some notable names added to our offense along with Kolton Miller, who we traded for to try to fortify our offensive line. We'll see how that goes. Pairing him with Ike McConwu at the bookends. Jaycon McMillan going to add some veteran savvy to our back end in the slot spot. And I am very excited for year 4. Let me know what you thought of this preseason episode. What cuts would you have done differently? Would you maybe not have signed Derrick Henry, kept Sean James instead of putting him on the practice squad? Really interested in hearing your thoughts and hearing your expectations as we enter the year 4 season. Are we finally going to break through and reach the playoffs? I think it's playoffs or bust here in year 4. But as always, everybody, it's been real and be well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.